Today we're going to talk about script breakdowns. When I say breakdown, I don't mean the mental kind. That comes later when you go into production. So, when you've finished writing a script and you're thinking to yourself, I can't wait to start directing this thing and get it filmed. Well, you've got a long ways to go. The first thing you're going to want to do is break down your script. You're going to want to do this for several reasons, but first and foremost, if you're not already financed, this is going to be a very important tool to help you figure out exactly how much money you need in order to make this film. Now, a script breakdown is one sheet of paper per scene that breaks down all the different elements that are required for that scene. So if your script has 143 scenes, then you're going to be filling out 143 pages. There are computer programs that will do this for you, but I strongly suggest that you don't use them. There's several reasons for this. First and foremost is that these programs can miss things, and sometimes those things are very important. Other times is that you might have characters in a scene that don't speak, and the computer's not going to pick up on that. Or continuous scenes, the computer's not going to cross-reference that. But the most important reason why you need to do this yourself, and you need to do it by hand, is because you, as a director, need to know every single thing about this script. And one of the best ways to get a good look at that big picture is to do the breakdown. Now, if you've written the script, you probably think, why should I bother doing this? Because I already know everything. Well, you might know everything as the writer of the story, but now you have to look at it as a production. And as you're about to find out, you're going to be thinking about each and every scene from a different standpoint. And it is going to help you a lot. It's going to help you understand your story in a different way so you can start figuring out what you're going to need to film it and how to turn it from a readable piece of paper into a visual production. You can read 20 books and you'll get 20 different ways of how to make a breakdown page. The way I'm showing you is a very, very simple one. I've tailored it for very low budget productions that don't have a large crew. You might have different needs. Instead of needing audio notes, you might have extras that you have to worry about. You might have both SFX and VFX, but you might not have any vehicles. Tailor your breakdown sheet to what you know you need. At the very top of your sheet is going to be the crucial information. This is going to be the name of the project, what scene the breakdown's for, whether it's a day or night shoot, whether it's interior or exterior, what location it's at, what the set name is in case your location has multiple sets, and then the page count. Now, the page count might not seem important, but it will give you a sense of timing. The general rule of thumb is that you're talking about 1 hour of shooting per page. So, if your scene is 3 3/8 pages long, then you can assume that it's going to take about 3.5 hours to shoot. Next, we're going to go to characters. In this scene that I've kind of made up here, we have 4 characters: Catherine, Robert, Anne, and Jacob. You might have 2 characters, you might even have 1 character in a scene. You don't want to put actors' names here as much as you just want to put characters. Actors' names comes much later on once you've cast it, or if you already have ideas for who's going to be playing what, you still want to go just with character names, because things can change, and often do. The next part is wardrobe. If the story is taking place over the course of multiple days, or even just a full 24 hours where you have a day and a night scenario, you're going to write down specifically what outfit somebody would be wearing. In this example, we're in the second day of the story, which means Catherine will be wearing the second gown that we see her in. We're also shooting at night, so Robert would be wearing his night robe. Meanwhile, the servant and the soldier are both in their uniforms. Makeup and hair notes are usually easy unless you have something that was added during the course of the film. For example, here I have Anne with a forehead bruise, which was given to her in an earlier scene. Same goes with Jacob's left black eye. If there aren't any special makeup notes, just all key usually does the trick. Props. When it comes to props, if you have more than one of a certain type of prop, assign it to a character in order to distinguish it. In this case, I've said Robert's bag because Anne might have a bag. When you have a prop that is only seen once, such as the butcher knife or the car keys, then you can just write them in as is. But denote whose prop it is if there are more than one of them. The set dressing section I usually leave for whenever something has to be changed on an existing set. In this particular case, the throne chair would have been toppled over from a fight in a previous scene, and the window curtains would have been opened. They may have been closed in an earlier scene, or they may be closed in a later scene. So with your set dressing, you're generally going to want to put in any notes as to anything that has changed that isn't necessarily touched by the characters in that scene, but has changed over the course of the story. Special effects. There are two different types. There are the mechanical, or otherwise known as practical effects, which are in-cam effects. They're done right there. And then there are VFX, which are your visual effects, which are done in post-production. In this section, I have SFX written, which basically just means special effects to me. Can be done either way. If you're using both or a combination of visual and practical effects, then you might want to have two different boxes, one for each type of effect. Any type of audio note is helpful, especially when it comes to figuring out your scheduling and timing, because it'll give you some notes as to when somebody needs to do voiceover work that might actually be done on location in order to keep room tones similar. You'll be adding to your production time on that. Stunts is always fun. You need to know about which scenes have stunts in order to figure out your timing and also your expense. Stunts are generally defined as being anything other than sitting, talking, and walking. So if you have a character running, that would be stunts. A chase scene would be stunts. Fights are stunts. You get the idea. Vehicles is another thing that you're going to want to have listed, especially if you have more than one vehicle in a complete story. Again, name the cars if there are more than one that are seen throughout the course of the film. You might also want to put a note whether or not they are parked or in motion. And finally, you're going to want to leave a large space at the bottom for any other notes. These might get filled later on, or they might get filled right in as you're initially doing your breakdown. In this case, I put a big old note about a closed set because we got a character that's going to be disrobed. One thing that you might want to add to your notes is anything that's going to add on to production time or expense. In this case, a closed set would add on to production time because you'd have to literally kick out everybody who's not absolutely needed on that set before getting around to filming it. Now remember I told you that a script breakdown is an important tool, and here's why. Once you have every scene and every element in that scene laid out in front of you, you'll be able to get an idea of how long it would take you to shoot your film based on your page count and also based on all the elements. For example, scene 3 might have a long car chase while scene 6 is just a table conversation. You can assume that scene 3, even though it's only about 2 lines of the script, is going to take a lot longer to shoot than scene 6, which is 2 or 3 pages of the script, but obviously will take a lot less time. Having everything broken down as far as what you need by way of costumes, props, effects, things like that is going to also give you an idea about your budget. You'll be able to break it down generally as far as how many costumes each character is going to need and put that into your budget, or how many of a certain prop you're going to need, or how many props in general you're going to need and the general costs of them. There's different ways that a breakdown can help you figure out a budget. And thirdly, it also helps you when you're actually shooting. You'll be able to look at a breakdown sheet real quick and make a determination if any element is missing before you start filming. This can be a lifesaver, especially if you don't have a script supervisor, which a lot of small productions don't. How that works is very simple. You always have your script breakdowns in a book near you at all times during the production. Right before you start blocking a scene, you look around and double check everything against your script breakdown. If there's an element missing, a prop that's not around, piece of wardrobe that's missing, somebody's missing a scar on their forehead that they're supposed to have, you'll be able to tell that immediately and get it fixed before you ever start shooting that scene. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.